Well, coalition talks taking place in many municipalities as we begin to digest all the numbers from the local government elections, especially in areas where there were no outright winners. That includes 5 of the 8 metros. So how do we begin to bring in coalitions? How do they begin to talk to each other? Always a pleasure. Co-author of the publication Local Government Law of South Africa, Professor Jaap de Visser, joining us this morning. Good to have you with us, Prof. Always a pleasure in speaking to you. So coalitions, historically, when I say historically, I mean the last elections, of course, didn't work out so well, especially in Tshwane. So why do we think they might work this time around? Do you get a sense that coalitions in general actually work?
Good morning, Gareth, and thanks for having me. Well, I don't think we have much of a choice. You know, whether or not we like them is sort of, irrelevant, because our electoral system baked into it is the possibility of coalitions, and now we have it, 66 hung councils. We have to somehow make it work and learn from the mistakes of the past. Interesting internationally, if you look at how coalitions work in countries that have been practicing them for decades, they work very well, and evidence actually suggests that they produce more policy stability than majoritarian governments. So they don't have to be chaos. However, often in municipalities in South Africa, they have caused chaos. When councils couldn't constitute or when there was just bickering and mayhem in the municipal council.
Yeah, I mean, the other day, you may or may not have seen the interview, Tumelo, interviewing the ambassador of Denmark here on the South African Morning, and he was saying, yeah, it actually does work when it's done properly. So why can't we get it right? Care to weigh in on that, Prof?
I think we have not done coalition negotiations and coalition agreements well. We've published a coalition framework. Together with my colleague Jenica Beekers, I published a coalition framework with guidance on the law and on some of the customs and traditions and conventions that we need to buy into in order to make coalitions work. For example, coalition agreements must be made public. Coalition agreements must be about local policy, the local plan of the coalition partners for that municipality. It shouldn't deal with national issues or issues that are irrelevant to local government. We should be very careful in overcompensating the kingmaker. Don't easily allow, the smallest party to walk away with the mayoral chain or with the speaker's hammer. We should, for example, also use coalition agreements to indicate, well, this is where we don't agree as coalition partners, and that's okay. Show the voters that there are many issues where you don't agree, but there are enough issues where you can find each other, strike a compromise, and have a pragmatic government. So there are things that we can do better to make these coalitions work.
I'm very keen to actually read up on these coalition agreements that you talk about as well. Help me understand, perhaps, Prof, for a moment, should these coalition agreements have been in place before we all went and voted for our political party of choice? Or is it okay only now for voters to see these coalition agreements? My question is framed around the fact that we don't know who our political party of choice was going to get into bed with, and it may have affected who we voted for if we knew who the political party might partner up with. Am I making sense?
You're making absolute sense, and that's the difficulty with coalitions, because I don't think you can expect political parties to declare up front exactly who they're going to go into coalitions with, because they don't have the electoral outcome yet. And every political party is going to go for gold, and you can't blame them for wanting to reach an outright majority. That's how politicians work. They will have to gun for the majority. It's sometimes, in these countries that have established long traditions of coalition, sometimes there are these sort of parties that court each other before the election, and they may even publicly declare that they combine their lists or that they are keen to enter into coalitions. But I do think we have a situation where we have to wait for the electoral outcome, and then we have to have a bit of trust in political parties to conduct negotiations maturely and pragmatically, and that they keep the voters informed on how the coalitions are going, and do so quickly, because in local government there's very little time to put together a coalition.
I still can't help but feel I think a lot of voters could feel very cheated once we get into the aspects of coalitions. Prof, I'm going to have to leave it there for this morning. They're always good to have you on the show. Professor Jaap de Visser, co-author of the publication Local Government Law of South Africa, of course, also from the Dula Omar Institute.